Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining in. It's been a little while since we've last seen you. It's good to see you, Rachelle. How are you doing today? And if you are tuning in first, my name is Melody. It's great to see you. How's it going, Rachelle?
It's going great. It feels like I haven't seen you in so long, and I don't know, makes me sad, but I'm excited because I knew that we were meeting tonight, and we have a great guest, and I've been looking forward to it. I'm hoping lots of people join in, especially if you happen to be on spring break and you're like, hey, I have some free time. Invite your friends and join in our conversation tonight. So yeah, and
Yes.
I know I'll be seeing you in a couple of weeks in my hometown,
Yes.
so that's exciting to me too.
That is so cool. Will I be in your hometown for real?
I mean, kind of like Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah, that's
I
great.
I mean, I'm close enough, like 30
Yeah,
minutes, but
and I need
not
I
the
need
same.
like I need for transportation. I don't have anybody to share a rental with, and I'm a terrible driver, so keep that in mind. Like when we got to go places, I'll split a
Okay.
rental car with you.
Well,
Anyway,
I don't think I need a rental
Anyway,
car, but
right, anyway, I'll pay your gas, whatever I need to do. I hate driving in new places, it sucks. How
yeah.
are you doing? What's new with you since we last talked?
Uh, I, well, I'm working on some projects, doing some like writing, the doctorate kind of research, lots of things with, of course, some of the topics we'll be talking about here tonight, and did a conference. I was in Detroit last week for McCall, my first time going there and presenting. It was like a 24-hour whirlwind trip, but that's okay because I got to go, and it's one that I really definitely want to go back to. So what about you? What's new?
Yeah, well, I have been on the road quite a bit lately, so, but and then after April, it's gonna be a little bit of a rest, and I was in Spring Q last week, is amazing energy. I freaking love Palm Springs. I love all the people at Q. It was wonderful, but yeah, and life is transitioning right now, so I'm a little bit low key. Um, yeah, but it's good to see you, and
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm here. Tell us about who's coming up.
Yeah, so our guest is somebody that I've known for I think 8 years now, if not a little bit longer, and gotten to connect with in different networks and be involved in some different presentations and conversations on some really amazing and emerging technologies. But I know the first time that I met, we could bring him up too. First time
All
I met
right,
Brad, I
let's
was
bring
like,
this guy up. Hey, Brad.
hey,
Hey.
I have to say, I was like, it was my first ISTE, so 2015 in Philly, and they had like this mobile mega share going on. There was different tables and things, and I was just starting to learn about augmented virtual reality. And I remember seeing Brad and Drew and Katrina at this table, and I knew about them from Twitter. And I, being the first time attending ISTE, seeing them in this technology in person, I was like, oh my, like I was like starstruck, and I'm not even making that up because like just knowing who they were and the work that they were involved in and seeing what they were presenting to everybody, it's like, wow. And so I followed his work, since then. And then we've connected at different conferences and seen each other in person, and had been involved in some conversations with podcasts, and had a chance to be in the same space last week, like unexpectedly. Like it was just like a last minute thing, which we could talk about later. So, but yeah, it's great to have Brad here with us tonight.
Hey, you two. It's so
Hey,
nice. Thank you for
I'm
having
sorry.
me, both of you. Hey, I'm just hanging out. I'm here to hang out with you
listen,
guys.
I am not myself today, and I apologize. I am like Eeyore today, so I apologize. Brad, how's it going? Tell us a little bit about your background.
It's going great, Melody. Thank you. For some of you who may know me, I was a classroom teacher starting in '99 through 2014. 2012, I discovered augmented reality using iPads in my classroom, and that completely changed what I was doing. I saw the engagement factor, and so I started rewriting lesson plans around engagement. And so I spent 2 years with the theory that if I could engage them, I could teach them any learning outcome I wanted. And that's what I ended up doing. And so I started writing about it, speaking about it, and then left my classroom to make the world my classroom. And my superintendent, who I'm still real close with today, coined me an evangelist. So I call myself an educational evangelist, and I love the work I do, and just like tonight. So thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that you're just trying to find a way to engage your students. And we talk about early adopters because all of us that go to conferences and present and everything, we are early adopters. But you're like early adopter.
Yeah, it was,
Yeah.
I got my first iPad in 2011 through the Scholastic Book Point Club. You remember that? The Scholastic, I'd been saving points for 10 years and I'd never used them. Saw this
Wow.
device and I got it. And it was like, wow, this is incredible. And so it really kind of started changing the way I was managing my class, my lessons. And then the 2 came out and had a camera. That's when everything changed. And boy, did that change everything I was doing. I wrote a grant to get 5 iPads. Remember, this is 2012.
Yeah.
That was, I had to actually, like apply to try to get my district spend some money and get some. And so the cool thing is I ended up having a digital and an analog schedule. Everything I did, all my curriculum, math, social studies, science, I had a digital side and I had a curriculum analog side. And so, because I only had a few iPads. And so it was fun with that dichotomy and figuring out how to manage all the devices. Then, 5 turned into 15. I ended up having 2-to-1, student iPad ratio. And that's when, boy, it was just so amazing. I'd been teaching 10 years. And the first time I showed augmented reality to my kids, I saw an engagement so deep. I'd never seen anything like it. And I was kind of cynical at the time. I'd seen all the different programs come in and been teaching 10 years. And all of a sudden, here was this technology. I'm like, man, look at this. I'm like so excited. I'm through the roof. I'm like, I'm going to find anything I could. And I found like something from NASA, something in architecture, and something from a medical school in Illinois. And I didn't teach architecture. I didn't teach space. I didn't teach medical. But I used them all. So I started, writing lesson plans around experiences. And, that was my journey. And boy, it changed literally the trajectory of my life, everything I've been doing. And I couldn't be happier. I'm still passionate 10, 11 years later, love it, still doing it. As Rachelle saw last week, we got to jump in a space together and we rocked this room. We can talk about that whenever, but it was a blast.
That's like crazy to think, how long that the technology has been around, and it's not even just like in the last 10 years. I mean, when I talk about it and talk about things like video gaming and so forth, had like elements of it, and people even talking about like AI, I think it feels so new because it's just talked about so much now. We see it so often, but they're not new concepts. It feels like we have to do all this catching up right now. But yeah, I still remember, I think I videotaped when you all were doing a presentation at that table and like at the heart. And I was like, this is unbelievable. And then what the potential is for learning or for anybody. I mean, there's like we were talking last week. I mean, there are so many things that you could use this for. And I remember in our session, the one man talked about the different simulations they were doing, like the work environment, even corporate trainings and things like that. Yeah, it's awesome to see. And it was great to present with you last week too.
Yeah.
Okay. What did you guys present on? I want to know. I really do want to know. Tell me.
Inquiring minds want to. Okay, so I had 2 sessions for McCall, and one of them was on STEM. The other one was on augmented virtual reality, and I threw in some AI because sometimes I do all 3 of those topics. And so Brad and I had talked prior to that. We were going to have a conversation on Friday afternoon, and then he was going to join us tonight. So then I think it was on Tuesday. Was it Tuesday? It must have been Tuesday night or something.
Yep, it was Tuesday night.
I posted that I was going to be at McCall, and then he sent a message and said, "Oh, you're going to be there." And I didn't know that like where he lived. And I said, "Are you presenting?" And he said, "No." And I said, "Well, hey, when I come and present with me in my session at 1," he's like, "Yeah." So we just threw, some slides and things together, some of which I use and some that he uses. And then it wasn't like we sat down and met and plotted it out. It was like, I go, you go, I go, you go, or whatever. And it just was 1 hour, and it was a lot of fun and a lot of good feedback and comments, and people were engaged. So yeah, it was great to be actually in that space and sharing, the work that he's doing, obviously on a global scale, and then things that I've learned in my classroom space and from teachers and everybody that's going to these conferences or things that you're seeing that people are posting and asking for help. So it was high energy for sure. It was like bam, like nonstop. It was great.
Yeah, it was so much fun, Melody. We got in the same room, and next thing you know, it was great. We had our slides up, and it was just like tag team. One of us would go, Rachelle would go, and all of a sudden, like she'd pause, and I'm like, yeah, and I'd jump on this, and I'd be like, hey, what's next? And she'd take over, and she's like, go to this slide, and we went up and down. I mean, it was great. We had great energy in the room. People asked a lot of good questions. I'd do it again. So
yeah. Oh, don't worry, because if I know that we're going to be in the same space again, it's like you'll get the hey on your calendar, or like I did to Jamie Donnelly at FETC. She thought she was just coming to sit at the Discovery Theater for 30 minutes. She sits down the front row. I was like, why are you sitting there? She's like, I came to support you. I go, did you see your name? And she looked, I had her name on the screen. Everybody was laughing. They're like, okay. And then with her, she hadn't seen the slides necessarily before. Like we've done that before, like last year. And I said, hey, Jamie, how about you do this one? She's like, okay, so we're going to talk about like whatever it was. So it was good, but it's fun to have somebody else there with you too.
Yeah. It was a good time. A lot of fun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So when the people that were there, was it mostly people that were like, had already started? Were they looking for an entry point? What did you guys like? What was that all about?
Okay. So it was great because Rachelle did a survey before they got started. And we found out almost everybody was a novice.
Nice.
So what we did is they were just beginners. So, knowing who was in the room. So we really laid out the difference between AR and VR and explained to them, not only the technology, but more of, why would you use AR? When would you use AR? What are the pros and cons? What is VR? When would you use it? What are the pros and cons? In an educational setting, how do you deploy? How do you get students on? How do you get them involved? What does that look like? And so, it was nice. That was a great idea. I usually just have raising hands. It was funny. Rachelle's like, so everybody doesn't have to raise hands. If you can fill out the survey, I'm thinking, I was just going to say, all right, let's raise hands. But it was great. So everybody was pretty much in the beginning of their journey. And so that's where we started.
That's awesome because I feel like in a lot of ways I'm at the beginning. So I'm just going to ask this, for all the other novices out there, what is your entry point like when you're talking about like ChatGPT? And we're going to talk about that. For somebody that maybe, on the intermediate, you guys, I think are kind of at the top of, technology using and all that stuff. And I know I didn't say that right. So for someone that would be, intermediate or beginner, how would you recommend them to get started?
Okay,
I didn't prep you with this. I'm just curious.
I just lost my tab. That's why I paused for a second.
Yeah, I always, and we literally had this conversation in our session, in Rachelle's session, was AR is using a mobile device, whether it's a phone or a tablet. The great part about using AR is the adoption is real easy and fast. You can get hundreds, thousands of people. You get 30 people, 20 people involved in an AR experience immediately, real quick.
I love that.
You get a mobile device, you download an AR app, boom. It's just like opening your camera. And it's as simple as that. Because you'd open your camera, except for in looking through your camera lens, you get digital information. You get whatever that is, the solar system floating around. A 3D, model of a human, Abraham Lincoln talk, whatever that might be.
Right.
So AR is just so quick and easy to adopt, take on and try. So even beginners, people who are just learning how to use this technology, if you can attach a photo to an email or open up your camera, you can use it in your class right away. So.
I know.
There's some good apps that you can just start with, but that would be, what I would recommend. How about you, Rachelle?
Yeah, well, good old Merge Cube.
Yep.
Which, when you say the solar system, and I've talked about this before too, whether, like, I don't think on here necessarily, well, actually maybe with Jamie Donnelly one time, but, when these were $1 and like how many people like grabbed at the different Walmarts when they went on sale. But like, it is a great way, for me, we talked about this last week too, like the solar system, some people just cannot remember that. And you try to visualize it, you study it and study and study, but like, you just don't get it. Or things in geometry, parts like anatomy, anything that you can hold, like a volcano, the layers of the earth that you can actually hold in your hand, manipulate, and you see it and you attach more meaning and connection to it because you're like able to look at it and focus on it in a way that makes sense to you. And it's fun, but beyond like, wow, this is awesome. Like what the creation part is it for students, because you don't want them to just sit there and consume. Like, that's great. Okay, now like take that solar system and like have your friend hold a Merge Cube and then do a screen recording where like, hey, your head is like the sun or it's like the planets in the solar system, and tell a story about it. to go beyond that, like just the basic consumption, have them creating, it is easy to get started. I mean, granted, if you have accessibility to all of those different resources, like that's key, but there's enough out there that you can grab like free trials, or you can even just print out the paper merge cube and at least give that experience to students really quickly. And it all starts with like your phone. I mean, 6-year-olds may or may not have a cell phone at this point. I don't know. I think there's a lot that do. So you have the parents put the app on, but yeah, it's fun to get started.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it.
And then VR is awesome.
I'm all ears. See, I'm totally paying attention. Tell me about VR.
So just imagine, right now you're sitting there like in the dark. You're like, I wish that I was like totally somewhere else, immersed in some other space. And you, oh yeah, I could get mine's over there.
I could also get mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all right here. We all have everything.
We should all like
just sit here with our heads, with our quests on.
I thought it was over there.
But there's so many things. I mean, it's fun for me. When I started, I used Nearpod. That was the very first thing, because it had the VR, the tours in there, and about Nearpod too. And for any teacher that's like, I wish I could give it a try to see what the student response is, like that's an easy one to go into. But there's a lot that are web-based, and you don't actually need to have the headsets. I mean, it's great if you really feel like you're immersed in that, especially if you're doing, like Beat Saber on the Quest, like get your workout on and your dance moves.
Awesome.
But to simulate experiences and to really feel, and then how that helps you to learn, like you develop empathy in some cases because of what environment you're placed in, or to develop skills like in public speaking, if you have a fear of that and you can simulate that environment. I mean, there's so many more, and Brad can speak to more of that.
Yeah. So, one of the biggest things that, we already referenced and talked about is, the adoption of it. We just spoke about AR adoption is real quick, pretty easy, because, you just need a mobile device, and there's a lot of mobile devices available. I mean, if you have access, they're a little more accessible than if about with headsets. Headsets are a little more difficult to manage if you're talking about truly wearing a headset. But the great thing about VR is, truly being immersed, and everybody that's been in one knows if you're in a good experience, how your brain quickly believes where you are, even though you're not, you're in a simulation. So, it's really powerful to use, and great places to learn. Think about this, think about a big school district in the city that would like to have an auto shop, a place where students can learn mechanics, but they don't have the square footage, they don't have the building, they don't have the resources to get donor cars, and and even if they did, we've got one car, one engine, 15 kids, 15 students. Well, with VR and making digital twins, as you call them, we can now create environments where all of a sudden we've got the cars, we've got the places that students can go, and we can duplicate that. We can have all the students jump in and work on their own engine, but we can also now collaborate. We can work together. So VR is absolutely incredible in that respect. It's so powerful. I do a lot of work in education and outside. I test a lot of VR programs for companies, and most of the ones I test are things that are dangerous or expensive. So if something like working at heights or working with electricity or something, I test a lot of those. Or if something's really expensive, like, hey, we have a $50,000, a $5 million machine that you're about to learn how to use. Instead of trying it on day one, let's give you the digital version and go in VR. So it's so cool. And there's a lot more, places and schools that adopt VR now, and it's getting easier. It's easier to manage. I can go on and on, but it's incredible.
Wouldn't it be so cool to like not have to go into school, but like put your headset on and then you're in school with everybody?
Oh yeah,
but you're at home.
It's already happening. I was in a build yesterday for a university that I can't say yet, but I'm helping them with right now. There were 3 of us in there, and they've already made the commons area. If you drop in and you're right outside their like the student union, as you'd call it. The cool thing is all their colleges are all around you, and you can just go right up to the door and a portal will take you in. We went to the College of Agriculture yesterday, and we went into the heavy machinery and equipment, and we were pulling apart engines. We were working on tractors, And then we went into their auditorium, just like, like think of like a freshman class where you've got stage and all that. We went in there and we could present, we could jump on the screen, just kind of like alt space VR and some of the other ones, Rachelle, you were sharing the other day.
Yeah.
The collaboration now in VR is really cool. It's Zoom on steroids, if you will, because you can share resources, you can duplicate resources, you can use all the things you'd use on Zoom. You can screen share, you can search on computers and get live. You can get like, think about just a giant TV. You'd have a big computer screen and you can type, you can research, you can all collaborate, you can grab whiteboards and markers. It's absolutely incredible. So Melody, it's actually not coming. It's here.
It's here. Yeah.
To be adopted very soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I hope it does, because I mean, that would have changed. Just think if we'd had that technology, or we did have that technology, but if we had implemented it and used it, the pandemic would have been a completely different ballgame.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that experience, Mal, that he was talking about, like the portal, that was back in the fall. There was a conference that was held in November, and it was like mind blowing to think like you're sitting there and you have your avatar and there's all these different spaces because of the sound, and your little avatar is walking along like you're going to a different room in the conference, and like you pass by another avatar and they're like, hey, Rachelle, and you're like, and then you could turn your camera on and interact, but then you go into rooms and you have to go near the speaker. And then it's all decorated, and you like, hey, let's break out into a small breakout group with your little avatars. And you go into a little section of the commons area of the room or the library and talk and turn your cameras on, but you can't hear the groups that are right next to you. So it
crazy.
does make you feel like closer and more connected to people in your space, as opposed to the Zoom. And no offense to all the, platforms that we know for that, but those types of things are coming. And I know even like Stanford had, launched a metaversity, or I think I don't know if they called it a metaversity at the time. That was like
the one I was in yesterday, they call it a metaversity as well. Yeah.
And there's a lot of them out
crazy.
there. I know.
Metaversity. I'm thinking of so many would you rather questions right now.
But I've got a lot of them. Yeah. Yeah.
So crazy. Okay, well, I don't. We're getting closer to when we end, but I want to say, do we want to talk about ChatGPT? I was huge at Q. I'm sure it was huge at McCall as well. Do we want to go into that, or do we want to play our game?
Well, we it kind of leads us into our game.
Okay.
But I will say with the ChatGPT that it is amazing how much it has just like, because I did an article back in December about it when it, a couple of weeks after it launched and it was open, and not a lot of people, 1 million users or something like that at that time. But then even last night, I got the access into Bard, and there was these Chrome extensions that have it now. There's like so much, and it's I don't know, it's unbelievable what it's capable of. And of course, GPT-4 originally was like, oh, it's not gonna be till summer. You're like, oh, it's here now. Sorry, surprise, we're early. But the reason I said it leads into our game is because I use ChatGPT for the game.
Nice.
And Bard. I use them both. I got a would you rather and I have a this or that. So yeah.
That's funny because that's the first time I used it was to create questions for a trivia game. So
yeah.
Nice.
It's pretty good. And Brad had some really good examples that were so funny. I mean, I wish we had time for him to do his reading of the prompt responses from last week, because they were so funny. But the one that you did, and you were like changing your voice. Which one? I can't remember what the prompt was.
The prompt was explain how to get a peanut butter and jelly sandwich out of a VCR in the verse of the King James Bible. And so it was like, for once a man shouted to the Lord, my peanut butter and jelly sandwich is stuck in a VCR. How should I get it out? And it was great.
So
I
funny.
discovered that one when I was working with the school district in Texas the night before. I was just doing some exploring. I found I'm like, this is going to be my go-to. And I got into the pastoral voice and was just, it was a blast. So that's my lead. That's when we go into it. Kind of gets everybody laughing and points out how like crazy it can be. But then there's some incredible prompts, and I was literally talking about this last night that one of the biggest takeaways right now for teachers, for me, is just saving time. It's saving time, giving them
Yes.
the chance to have that time to spend a few more minutes with the students, spend a few more minutes with a different prep, whatever that is. Because look, we get so many new things on our plates as teachers. They don't take them off. They say, oh, it's not another thing. Well, I'm sorry, Steve. It really is another thing.
Yeah.
It's just one more thing. You're telling me it's not, but it really is. And we've been doing this for 5 years now. But it's a great prompt to help, great place to help teachers. Rachelle's done some great work on it. I've shared about it. There's a lot of great resources out there. And ChatGPT 4 is, I've got it up on my screen right now. Can't get into it, but it's really going to take it to the next level. It's pretty impressive. So overall, it's absolutely incredible.
Yeah. And I want to give a shout out to Katie McNamara. I went to one of her sessions at Q and it was amazing. And what really drew me into was when she talked about reclaiming our time. And then I saw Alec Kuros and Ken Shelton talking about that as well earlier this week. So shout out to everybody who is educating the rest of us. You guys are amazing, because honestly, I wouldn't naturally go into this. This is not my realm of like where I lead, but it is really cool, cooler than I thought it would be. So yeah.
And you need to try it. Like if you haven't tried it yet, like definitely, and think about like questions that you might use if you're a classroom teacher or whatever, or an email that you would write. If you think like, oh, I have to write this email, like you just pop that in as a prompt and see what it comes up with, and have it regenerate too after you've read it to see if it's similar, because, the concern about is all the kids going to use it. It does repeat some of the same things, and it's not always correct, because it said that I had a PhD in curriculum instruction and I was an associate professor at some university. I'm like, yes, I can like totally drop out of this. Like everything on the internet,
manifesting things for you.
Right. It's awesome. So, so I did make some questions. I guess I did make questions, right? They're mine from ChatGPT for our game.
Okay, it's game time.
Yeah.
Is it game time?
Yep, it's game time.
All right.
Okay. Question 1, again, these may or may not be my own. Would you rather travel back in time or travel to the future?
Future for sure. That's a tough one.
I would like to go back in time and correct a lot of terrible mistakes that I've made. I would love that.
I'd like to go back in time to meet some really great people, but
I
know their story. I know their history. I know nothing about the future. I'd just be amazed. I want to know when the aliens land. I want to know what technology we're using, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
True.
If I could go to another planet where there's life, I would love that. That's not one of the questions, no, that's not like, that should be. I want to meet the aliens.
That's right. If the aliens are here and they've already taught us about, time travel and all that stuff, you could go. Hey, I don't think it's gonna be that long before we get some really good proof that, they're around or coming down or whatever. It's gonna be great.
I bet they're already here.
Yeah.
I talked about it with 7th graders 2 weeks ago. Like, who thinks that life exists, beyond our solar system? And they all think that, it does. And at that age, I probably would have said no. But anyway, let's go on. Sorry.
Okay. So would you rather live in a world without technology or a world without art?
Without technology.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is this a rapid fire answer? Or am I supposed to elaborate?
No, you don't have to elaborate. It can be a rapid fire.
No, you know what? I believe in the human connection, so I'd rather have art than technology, because my friendship group would just be a little smaller, but it'd be closer. I'd be missing people who were in different places, but I'd like to think I have really strong, deep relationships and have to keep that human connection. So
I like that. I'm going with Brad's answer.
Okay. I will also go with Brad's answer. Next question. Would you rather be stranded on a deserted island alone or with somebody you really dislike?
Oh. Well, I'm not good with small talk, so I'd probably rather be by myself. But I might be regretting that decision 1 month later, and really I've got 25 more years. I probably would have been happier with somebody I don't really like. Maybe I get to like them better. So
right.
I don't know. Trick question, because I'd like to say by myself, but the reality is you probably want to be with somebody else. Would be my guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna choose, the somebody I dislike.
Yeah. Me too. I thought Brad would have chosen that because he said about like the connections, and they were like, wow, I don't know about the small talk. That's pretty funny. Good call. Okay. Would you rather give up social media or your smartphone for a year?
God.
I can give up social media a lot easier than my smartphone. My smartphone allows me to stay in touch with my daughter who's still in high school and my grown kids and stuff. So yeah, that's probably a pretty easy one for me. What about you guys?
I would be unemployed, so
yeah.
Oh, that's true.
I don't
That's
know.
true. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd give up social media, I guess. Because
I'm not gonna give up social media.
I don't know.
That's
I'll
fair.
just, yeah. All right.
I'm not giving up my phone either. I'm a grown person. I'm walking away.
All right. So I'm throwing the question out. ChatGPT, we don't like that question. I should give it thumbs down. No. Okay. I'll give you one more would you rather, and then I'm going to give you 4 this or that's. I was going to try and make it 10. Okay. Last would you rather. Would you rather have to use a typewriter or a rotary phone for all of your communication needs?
Oh, give me the I was going to say typewriter, but
we have all used both.
yes,
So.
we have. We have.
That's
It's funny
so
when you
funny.
see a kid try to figure out what a rotary phone does. That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
I would rather use a rotary phone because that I have like lost my mind using a typewriter.
Yeah, that's
don't know.
true.
Yeah, so like if I have to use a typewriter, does that mean I can't like if I have to use a typewriter to interface with my computer?
Oh no, it's just a typewriter. There are no computers.
Oh, yeah, probably the rotary phone because you know you get back to remembering everybody's phone number, I guess.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Do you guys remember anybody's? I still know my childhood phone number, and I know my Avon ladies phone number.
Yeah, I know my grandparents and my home phone number.
I remember mine from 1977, 738-0395, Glendale, Arizona.
Dang.
Wow.
Okay, here's where it gets interesting. So I typed into both ChatGPT and Bard, like write 10 this or that questions.
What's Bard? I don't know what Bard is. For all the people that don't know what Bard is, what the heck is Bard? Jeez.
So Bard is the Google version of like the same thing that ChatGPT does, basically, in its simple form.
I just took one for the team on that one.
The interesting thing is that the 10 questions for the 2 of them, 8 of the 10 of them are the same.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah. So on both of them, it was coffee or tea. So that'll be your first one.
Oh,
cheese.
Tea. I'm a tea drinker anyway.
Oh, it was coffee or tea?
Coffee or tea, not cheese. Yeah. But I can make it coffee or cheese for you.
Yeah. Tea drinker. Ice cheese and hot. I drink hot tea every day.
Okay.
And I'm from
I love
Alabama,
coffee.
I drink sweet tea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My coffee.
I absolutely love coffee, but if they were going to take my cheese away, I would be like, it would be terrible.
All right. Cats or dogs?
Both.
Both, but dogs if I have to push to one.
I got cats.
My dog likes me. The cats, I love them. They hate me. So I guess dogs.
I've had them both. I've had cats and dogs. So
I did have a dog years and years ago. This one was interesting. The one ChatGPT said early bird or night owl. Bard said early riser or night owl.
I'm early bird.
I'm both.
I'm early bird. I'm up before 6. In bed 9:30.
Wow.
Wow. Crazy.
I'm in sleep at 10, but in bed 9:30.
Yeah. Dang.
I get up early and go to bed late. It is what it is.
Oh,
I don't have little kids in the house anymore either. So my kids are, my youngest she just turned 16. So.
Wow.
Nice. Yeah. I can't even imagine what that's like, but one day.
Oh.
Yeah.
One day.
Don't rush it. My oldest will be 27 in a couple months.
Wow.
So it happens fast.
Yeah.
I remember when he was 5 and in kindergarten very clearly. So it happens
all of a
fast.
Sudden, 27.
But it's great. You get really proud of the kids you raise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For sure.
Last question.
Okay.
Summer or winter?
No
really?
brainer for this guy.
Yeah.
Summer. I live in Detroit, so summer.
Yeah, I would say summer. I do like the winter, but the summer.
I hate the winter.
Yeah. So both of those had that on there.
The winter can go to hell.
Did you live in Alaska for
I
quite some
still live
time?
in
That's where she
Alaska.
Oh,
is. Yeah.
I thought you moved to the lower 98. You just
I
work in the
freaking
lower 98
wish.
now, right?
No, I actually work remotely, but I'm all over the place.
Oh
But
yeah, I know. I
I
see you travel all the time.
yeah,
So
I
Hmm.
am sick of the winter. So I lived in Texas for almost half of my life, and I moved from Missouri just to get away from the winter. So that's why I moved to Texas. And so I used to think that people that lived in Alaska were foolish people. And anyway, so Texas, you have like almost summer for all year long, right? Like 9 months of the year. But it's the opposite here. It's like winter, and you have a spring.
yes.
Yeah, you don't really have, to me, a summer, but it is
Hmm.
beautiful and there's a lot of wonderful things here. So I don't want to bash it, but I hate winter and I'm over it. And it snowed today. So I'm a little pissed, is all I'm saying.
Oh,
There it is.
oh my.
Anyway,
Yeah.
is there
So
any more questions?
no, I mean there were more, but it was interesting to see like what it generated, but then that the two of them had, and just I
Oh,
said
yeah.
bright 10, this or that, and how many were the same. I mean, slight variation on the word early riser. Uh, oh boy, apparently there's a big storm
Mm.
brewing. So if I disappear, that would be why. But no. So you should try it out. I mean, even simple things like that. If you want 10 ideas for a party, I mean, it doesn't always have to be like a professional kind of thing. Like if you're just like, I have no original ideas, gift ideas, like try anything out just to see what it does. And if it gives you like a we're sorry, just refresh it. Like it'll come back.
It wrote a rap for me the other day. It was really good. It was over, oh God, I was in one of the, anyway, it was great. I love it. It's fun to play around with and get good ideas. And if your brain is just drained, I think I think it's wonderful. So
I
yeah,
agree.
for sure.
Oh.
So we went over, Brad. Thank you for being patient with us. We
Yeah.
always ask our guests before we say goodbye. Do you have any last thoughts or advice or wisdom that you want to share? And it can have nothing to do with anything that we've talked about. Just something that's on your mind that you just want to say and share with the world.
Well, thanks. I would like to just share, if you're watching this right now and ChatGPT is new to you, and I mentioned time savings, go in and explore some things. It can create rubrics for you. It can create emails for you. You can say, can you write an email to my fourth grade parents about going to the zoo, or whatever that might be. So there's a lot of great resources. Just like, I recommend people just try something augmented reality. Try Chat GPT, see what it's about, get firsthand knowledge, and see how it can help you as an educator and a teacher. Then we can get on, start working with students. And there's so many different levels once you start to explore it. But just do it, try it out, see what you think, and then everything will evolve from there.
Mm-hmm.
I love
And
that.
thank
That's
you
good.
so much for having me, you two. This has been
Yeah.
so fun and enjoyable.
Glad to
Yeah,
have
no,
you join.
I love your energy, Brad. So I'm really glad you came on today. And I think that's great advice, especially for people that are like kind of timid to start. You guys gave a lot of great advice today, and I appreciate that. And if you've been watching, whether this is what you're watching live or the repeat, we really appreciate you, and let us
Yeah.
know your thoughts. And we'll see you next week, right, Rachelle?
Yes, we will. We'll see you almost the same time next Thursday night.
All right. Sounds good. Bye,
All right.
everybody.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody. Thanks.